Hello and welcome to the agenda on Politics Social with me and Phil Moorhouse. How you doing, Phil? You all right?
I'm all right, yes.
Good.
Sorry, I've just got now turned things off.
Oh, no. All right, well, I'll cover for you
fine.
while you
No,
turn things
fine.
back on.
Fine.
So,
it's just because the stream started and I didn't mute it.
okay, well, it's good to have you back on the Politics Social channel. Did you have an all right Christmas? Was it all right?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Did you get
I got badger slippers.
You got badges? Oh, man, that's brilliant. I got Pokemon slippers. That actually happened. I'm officially old. Billy Kershaw's in the chat, and also Alex French is in there. Hating Puds, Katrina is in there. Sarah over in Wales is there. We've got Svax, Paul, and Gareth T. If you would like to join them, all you need to do is just hit that subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button really hard. No, not hard. Don't break your device. And you'll be able to join them in the chat. You just got to wait for a minute. So today we're going to start by talking about, it's all been kicking off in the last 24 hours in MAGA land, hasn't it?
Rather amusing over here as well. There's
come on, tell us.
Well, Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage are accusing each other of faking their membership numbers.
Yes, so this is right on right violence.
Well, they haven't quite come to blows yet. That's more likely in America.
But this is mad, isn't it? So the thing with the membership numbers is he was bragging that they've got more members than the Conservatives, but won't release the figures. Is this what he's?
No.
Oh,
it's like they haven't been independently audited.
Okay.
But no one's serious. I mean, Sky did some analysis because Kemi Badenoch claimed it's just a random ticker. It's not. They've said no. It's definitely pulling its data from somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, okay, they've said that's not proof. The source where it's pulling the data from could be fiddled, but there's no real reason to doubt it. I mean, yes, you'd have independent verification, but it all makes sense. They said,
yeah,
the membership numbers go up in the daytime and down at night and stuff like that. So it's not like that petition.
The petition where everyone signed it at 3 in the morning.
A load of people from Vietnam signed it. Yeah,
as Keir Starmer, with the name Keir Starmer. Yeah. All 3 million of them. I mean, this is important to things to come between VFUC and the Tory party, isn't it? Because they properly hate each other. You're right that the Tories.
Unfortunately, they don't. I mean, Reform UK wouldn't have existed if the Tories have actually. There's too many Tory MPs that would. The only reason they're in the Conservative Party is because that's how you get elected. They'd love it if the Conservative Party became like Reform UK. That's why they never, you'll know, even Kemi Badenoch, they never attack Reform UK's policies.
No.
They'll say that you should vote for the Conservatives instead because you'll basically get the same thing is what their argument is. But they don't attack their policies.
Right.
Which means that they like their policies.
It's all a bit depressing, isn't it? But no, I mean, I'm talking about the fact that, personally, at a personal level, not talking about policies or anything, they don't seem to like each other very much. I think it's that thing of they feel like they're stamping on their territory. They're encroaching on Tory territory. See what I did there? But
because they've been used to all this. I mean, both of our lifetimes, the Conservatives had the right wing sewn up. All they had to do was get those votes around the centre, and then UKIP scared them in 2015. But even though they got a higher proportion of the vote than they did this year, but it was it was even more scattergun. So it got them like 1 MP. They really had no reason to be frightened of UKIP. The fact that they has created this problem.
Yes. Yeah, overcompensating for the fact that they thought this is it, and they won that election in 2015 that no one thought they were going to win, and they won it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, they shouldn't have done because they didn't increase their share of the vote or anything like that. Got exactly the same. It's just the Lib Dem. This is just first past the post. The Lib Dem vote collapsed.
Yes,
and almost all Lib Dem seats are between them and the Conservatives. So the Conservatives won a load of extra seats just due to the fact that the Lib Dem vote collapsed because of austerity.
Isn't that mad? People go, I'm going to blame the Lib Dems for austerity, so we're going to not vote. We'll put the Tories in instead.
Consequence.
Yeah, the consequence.
Exactly. That's not the intention when they were voting.
But that's first off the post, isn't it?
I'm not supporting the party that supported that. But the consequence was they allowed in the party actually behind austerity to win a majority.
Yeah, yeah.
And take us out of the EU.
But I mean, on the newspaper front pages today, they actually took a break, some of them, from slagging off Labour to talk about this rift between the Tories and Reform. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, long may it rain. Like, I'd like them to continue biting chunks out of each other and putting each other down. But yeah, going back to in one moment, because One Angry Pagan has just dropped the first super chat of the show in. Thank you very much for the £2. Even so, Labour must get their act together. Yeah, not disagreeing there, mate. Well, we might come back to that. We might circle back to that. But let's talk about Elon Musk at the moment. He's running around banning people left, right, and centre off Twitter because they're not agreeing with him. Which, you know, doesn't come as much of a surprise to a lot of us on the left, but he's getting rid of people on the right. He's suspended Laura Loomer.
On the far right.
Yeah. Laura Loomer, who's like the Eva Braun to Donald Trump's Hitler. She's Donald Trump's, apparently, people are saying, allegedly, that she's his current mistress. And it's all kicked off. And you were talking, weren't you, saying it's a bit like when it was like with Carrie Simmons and the relationship between Dominic Cummings and Boris Johnson and Carrie Simmons. This seems to it seems to be a mirror of that, because they are proper kicked off in public. And what was it over? Immigration. Yeah. Weirdly, Elon Musk, an immigrant, has said, and Vivek Ramaswamy, an immigrant, have said that they need more top-level immigration, especially for engineering.
From India specifically,
Yeah, into the US, and they need to have more of these visas. At the moment, I think the number of visas, these HM1 visas for people who are, you know, the top 0.1% of any given country. They're capped, and they want the cap to be taken. The cap's like 60,000 a year, I think, and they want the cap taken off. But I mean, I don't know, Phil. If you were from, well, maybe from a developing nation, it might be different. But I can't imagine that many people with who aren't white wanting to go over to America in the next few years, because the white supremacists have just won a massive election.
It depends how closely you follow politics. There's plenty of very intelligent people don't really pay much attention to politics, particularly in another country.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I suppose, and you get paid loads more. But this is the other thing they're saying about Musk, is he wants to bring people over because it will mean he'll get engineers and only have to pay them like not a nominal sum instead of the fantastic sums that an American-born engineer would want.
Or he just gets engineers as well. The other advantage is that you get them from another country where they'll have learnt different things and they can actually improve your business. Not that he seems to really care whether his business works well or not on past experience, but in theory he might.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's lots of benefits to immigrating high-skilled workers.
Yeah.
It's just, you can understand why MAGA faithfuls went mental when the first thing the two leaders of Doge do is promote the idea of removing what they already don't think there's enough restrictions on immigration. And the first thing Trump's picks are doing is saying, these not enough restrictions on immigration, we should remove them altogether. So obviously it was going to trigger them. But, you know, this champion of free speech, rather than just going, oh, well, we'll just have to agree to disagree, aren't we lovely? He went, no, killing. It's like he's actually restricted them. It says, right, this is what you can do. You can follow other accounts, but you're not allowed to post. You can only post via direct message. That's what he's done to this person and a few others as well. It's not just that one account. Literally restricted their accounts. So as far as I can tell, so that they cannot tweet. All they can do is they can communicate with each other and they can look at posts, but they can't post their own.
Yeah.
That is some proper free speech champion stuff.
Champion of free speech, mate. Champion of free speech. Wouldn't it be really funny? This all kicked off, right? So Donald Trump decides to get rid of this Musk character and this Vivek Ramaswamy for upsetting his mistress, his alleged mistress, his apparent mistress, as people are saying mistress.
He don't have a mistress. He can't get it up, can't he? Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm sure she follows him around. But imagine he gets rid of them from the Department of Government Efficiency. and brings
which doesn't exist. But
yeah, but makes it actually real, right? Phil, stay with me on this. He makes it a real department, and he goes through Congress and does it properly, right? Sets it up, the Department of Government Efficiency, with different people in it, and the first thing that they earmark is the billions that America's taxpayers spend on Musk.
Not happen.
Wouldn't it be funny? I said, wouldn't it be funny, Phil?
It would be
Thank
hilarious.
Indulge my fantasies for once. It would be like, I never expected the Department of Government Efficiency to decide I was inefficient, says man who bought Twitter for $24 billion, and now it's worth about $4 billion, if that. But someone was saying that the reason why he's sort of targeting the right now on Twitter is because everyone who's sort of on the left is left. There's no one to argue against, so they just start arguing amongst themselves, which I'm all here for. Pass the popcorn.
I mean, there's still loads of people on Twitter. I'm still on Twitter, but I guess the sort of progressive people that are the ones who engage in politics and are progressive that are left on Twitter are the ones who just don't get baited. So I suppose there's no fun in it.
Yeah. We've got Vendetta saying that it's the H1B visa, not swine flu. That's a different thing. Plus, I know someone in America who says that the USA degree isn't that good, and it's more like a UK A level. Is that true?
Well, it'll depend on different universities. I mean, there's just like in this country, there'll be plenty of Mickey Mouse degrees, but there's good universities.
Phil, you're not supposed to say Mickey Mouse degrees. You play it into the hands of the Farages of the world.
No, they just attack different ones. There are genuinely, I mean, when I was a teacher in an FE college a long time ago, they were setting up a university centre, right? They were going to deliver degrees. And the psychology teachers in my office, they were looking through this stuff because they were going to be doing it. They weren't like academics or anything, the teachers. And they looked through it, they said, this is easier than A level. So there are plenty of like...
And that was in our country, okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way the Farages treat it is, they're the ones who talk a lot about like Russell Group and stuff like that, as if that's the gold standard for the quality of the course. Whereas Russell Group just literally means these are the universities that do most of the like good international research, but it doesn't mean universities outside of it deliver poor. In fact, some of them deliver better teaching, because if a higher proportion of your income as a university department is your students, you tend to spend more time on them. Yeah. Whereas I was at a top department, like Manchester's physics department is it's like 5-star international research, but it also
the Roscoe building, wasn't it? Was it the Roscoe?
No,
Schuster building. Oh mate, sorry. I used to have lectures in there. Anyway, go on. But because the people teaching us, some of them were really good. They gave all the good ones to us in the first year. Yeah. But a lot of course, research is their thing. So students are an inconvenience to them. So you ended up with quite a lot of those lecturers just coming in, talking shit and then pissing off again. And weren't interested in you actually learning. So, so there are... But there are still crap university courses. There are still degrees where you don't really learn anything. Yeah. And people think they have because they've got a degree. And obviously you can have more than one degree, but most people just do or at least one bachelor's degree. And because they're not comparing it to anything else, they think, oh, well, I've got a degree, therefore I've got a degree. And some of these people, it's like, mate, you were just like reading Ladybird books for 3 years. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I felt like you guys doing science over in Manchester, like that you were made to do actual work, whereas I did an arts subject. I did politics and history, and I really don't feel like I did put in as much work as my friends who did maths, physics, psychology. Even
I knew an English student. They had like 3 hours of lectures a week.
Yeah, and
they were arseholes in the physics department because they always put the lectures in the morning. If you had say 4 lectures in one day, they would be from 9 till 12 and then like a 1 till 2 or something like that. Yeah. And it's like, that's really stupid because I'm a lazy student, right? I'll get in for the afternoon, I won't get in for the morning. So it was self-defeating. Wow. But But again, I bet you that was because they wanted to get it out of the way in the morning so they could piss off to their mad scientist labs in the afternoon and be done with us.
When we're talking about swine flu in the chat now because I mentioned it, and one Angry Pagan saying it nearly killed him in 2009. Jesus, I'm sorry to hear that. One Angry Pagan, I know it was quite serious. I remember I was traveling back then, and I had to have my temperature taken whenever I crossed the border just to make sure that I didn't have it. Mike Higgins, will the EU act as a go-between when Greenland becomes part of the USA while Alaska is given back to Russia? Well, did you see the tweet today that some British nutter put out? Was it a news article saying that we should become the 51st state? Did you see that, Phil?
No.
We should embrace Trump and MAGA and America, and we should become the 51st state.
So what I would say to someone like that is, because so Nigel Farage has been doing this thing, pushing for closer US relations, but it's like, but you were very, very anti-US when it was under Biden. So you'd ask these people, so you want to be under Trump? He's got 4 years left.
Yeah.
And then what happens so you want to be part of America when there's a Democrat in charge, do you?
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
in the UK, if you're right wing, we mostly have right wing governments because the left are just, we're talking about the right having a punch up. The left are always having a punch up. It's really depressing. It's actually, what people keep saying, just going off a tangent, how nice the environment is on Blue Sky. Whereas I find it much worse than Twitter. I find Twitter way better, but that's my own particular reasons.
Okay.
And the reason for that is on Twitter, I see the right wing having a fight with each other. On Blue Sky, all I see is progressives fighting each other.
Right.
But the, it's. Oh, sorry, I've lost the thread. What bloody hell was I talking about now?
You're talking about Twitter not being as Twitter being better than Blue Sky, which I don't.
That was my tangent. I was making another point and I completely forgot what it was. Oh yeah, Nigel Farage. So I would say to these people, in this country we mostly have right wing governments. You might not. Yeah. You might think that Rishi Sunak was a Marxist, but I assure you he is not. Whereas in America, I haven't worked it out, but it seems pretty 50-50 to me.
Yeah.
I know the Democrats are not exactly socialists, but they're round the centre at least. So it's pretty much 50-50. I mean, they're little better than communists according to some people. It's 50-50 between Democrat and Republican. So if we did join America, you would actually be increasing the amount of time in which we have what these people would call a Marxist government.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's what I would say to them. So you'll be happy when the Democrats are back in charge for 8 years or something, will you? Yeah. You'll be happy to be part of America then.
Well,
and to go bankrupt if you were silly enough to cut your leg.
Yeah. So this was an article actually in the Telegraph yesterday, Phil, by Poppy Coburn, entitled "It's Time to Become the 51st State of the US." It's not an article on The Onion or a satirical news on the Daily Mash or anything. This is the Telegraph.
It's a comic.
The UK News website of the year 2024, apparently.
Right.
We need to get Brexit done properly. Let's finally face up to reality and put our MAGA hats on.
So how's that work for sovereignty? Also, it's the same comment I made about the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state. Like the 68 million people. I mean, obviously, Northern Ireland presumably just reunified with the rest of Ireland, but you still got you've got about 67 million people in Britain. That would be a massive, just one state. Is that all worth? One pissing state with 67 million people?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Indeed.
It'd have to be multiple states. It'd have to be 51 to 50. What's the average? I don't know what the average is. How many people are in America? You should know.
There's 330 million people in America. The most popular state is California with nearly 40 million. So we will be the biggest state by a long way.
Yeah, that's an average of just a few million a state. We'd be with loads of states. We ought to be 20. Yeah. We'd have to be 20 states.
Yeah. Well, the smallest state in America by terms of population is Wyoming, and that has less than 500,000 inhabitants. It only gets 2 senators.
Even Wales.
Sorry, they all get 2 senators. It only gets 2 votes in the Electoral College. 3 votes. It gets 1 representative in the House of Representatives because it's so small. So I get 3 votes in the electoral college.
It's not even worth Wales. That's like not even a Wales.
Yes,
Not even nearly a Wales.
way smaller than Wales. What do you keep dropping?
Oh, sorry, I was just playing with something.
Okay. Chris C, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. The question that needs to be asked is, why is Farage pushing for closer relations with the US? What would he gain from closer relations?
He don't want closer relations.
Oh, tell us more, Phil.
He just is. Well, it's simple. He just wants to divide. It's like bloody Peter Mandelson. He said this before. Now he's saying it again. Oh, we should try and use Donald Trump because of his relations with Trump. He would poison our relations with Trump. He just wants to create discord for his own purposes. He's not interested. He would not be an agent of fostering closer relations between the US and the UK, whether we have a Labour government or a Conservative government. He would go in there behind closed doors and he'd be telling Donald Trump, oh, you should demand this and you should demand that. They'll totally take it. And he would just use it so that Trump demanded ridiculous things which would have to say no to. And then Trump would feel slighted.
Wasn't there a Tory, Geoffrey Cox, I think his name is, the guy with the very deep voice. And he was working for the British Virgin Islands, I think.
Yeah, he does.
To advise them on how to get the best deal out of Britain.
Yeah.
Okay.
He does a lot of stuff where he basically advises. He does a lot of private work as a lawyer, advising people how to dodge British taxes, and he did that as an MP. Well, he is still an MP, isn't he? Is he? It's hard to tell because he never used to turn up anyway. But he certainly was.
But he sounded like he was in charge because he had a deep voice.
He's apparently very aggressive when in court. He's had judges like bollock him for being.
Really?
Like, he's the sort of person. Usually, you would at least ingratiate yourself with the judge because you sort of want them on their side. Apparently, he had a bit of a habit of going off against judges, like John McEnroe against an umpire.
Yeah. Well, in the USA, someone's just mentioned Dark 4x4. We should become the 51st state of America. Imagine the number of electoral college votes we'll get. So if we went all in, all 70 million of us, so that's 68 million. But like, that roughly translates to around 68 members of the House. That would be an insane number. It's just like the caucus from Britain would like absolutely dominate.
America, in terms of population, like it's several times larger than the UK, but it's not like the UK is not tiny. So, yeah.
California's got 53. Sorry, Phil. California's got 53.
Yeah, California's massive. California could actually be a country.
Yeah, but it's got 40 million people. So I was thinking we'll have over 100 representatives. Over 100 based on that maths. Or, as the Americans say, that math. Do we have to start talking like Americans? Say things wrong like aluminum and sidewalk and faucet and all that nonsense?
Well, no, because I mean, I don't even speak the King's English. Are
they going to steal the U from Labour?
Well, that'd be tricky, wouldn't it?
That'd be great.
They might
Disgraceful. Back in the 80s, the band The used to sing about becoming the 51st state. There is a movie set in Liverpool. It's not a very good one, with Samuel L. Jackson called The 51st State. But I don't think it's something that anyone serious would put forward as a proposal for the future of the United Kingdom.
No.
But here you have someone who is called Poppy. You probably guess she didn't go to the local comp. Writing for the Telegraph, which has just gone bonkers. It's gone absolutely bonkers. Was there a time when it wasn't bonkers? I never really paid much attention to Telegraph.
Oh, it used to be. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily have agreed with its editorial line, but it used to be vaguely sensible. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It used to have the Garfield comic in it, and it used to do like fantasy cricket. It was all right then.
Michael Bayham is saying nuclear. They don't say nuclear, right? Do they? Americans.
Well, George Bush Jr. doesn't. He had a problem with it.
Oh God, George Bush Jr. He appears intelligent now. He appears to be like an intelligent elder statesman.
What's incredible about the right wing in both the UK and the US is you've got some of like what we thought were like the worst people who are looking principled now. You've got people like, Ronald Reagan and George Bush Jr. And Margaret Thatcher. And you're like looking at them now thinking, well, at least they had pissing principles. It's like, we might not have liked them.
Yeah, they were.
At least they had something. Whereas the current crop are just, there's like nothing. There's no redeeming features at all.
Yeah.
They're not even trying to do good
Well, I mean,
for anyone.
they don't. They're in it for themselves. Whereas you could argue George W. Bush wasn't really in it for himself.
I don't know. I mean, the stuff with the Iraq thing was him going, well, my family's an oil family. The sanctions on Iraq are a bit of a pain in the arse. We need them removing. There's only two ways to remove them. One is just to remove them, but obviously that's tricky because Saddam Hussein's been a naughty boy, and the other is to remove Saddam Hussein. So they said, all right, well, let's just say that 9/11 was their fault, even though Iraq hates Al-Qaeda, or did when he was still alive and they were still alive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think he was exactly honest.
No, I don't. I'm
way
just saying
more
it's
principled.
It's mad to think that like how despondent
They're
it
much
was,
worse now.
in after the 2000 election. He stole the election essentially because his brother was the governor of Florida at the time. It came down to 500 votes. It should have had a rerun, but obviously didn't.
It was mad to me at the time, this idea that, these sort of pregnant chads and the things like that, you had to punch a hole in a thing. And if there was a bit hanging off it, it's clear someone's put something through it. Yeah. And the fact that it hadn't broken away completely meant you didn't count the vote. And it was like, are you serious?
Yeah.
It's like supposed to be the most advanced country in the world. Are you seriously telling me you're not going to count something just because the whole thing, the Chad did not fall off completely?
Well, there was the thing about I think I was telling you about it where at the last election in the UK, one of my friends was actually part of the election count people. What they call poll people who count the votes, and at the end of the night they have to get all the votes together that they've got to make a decision as a committee, and they sometimes have a majority vote on it of what the person intended their vote to be. And there was one who drew a cock and balls, cartoon cock and balls in the box for the Conservative.
That's fine.
MP, or the candidate.
If they didn't put anything in any other box, it counts.
Yeah, and they did. So they ended up voting for someone by drawing a cock next to their name, and it was like, but yeah, you may do that. That is permissible. It doesn't have to be across.
And if it is their intention to say, I don't like any of them, but I really hate the Tories, then well done, you just voted for the Tories.
Yeah.
Because that is how it is taken. If you put anything inside one box and only one box, it's a vote.
I love those things that go around on Facebook and stuff where they say, "Oh, take your own pen," because if you write it in pencil, someone will come along and rub it out. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure if you get a pad and write some stuff and then rub it out, you can still see that there was a mark there. It's pretty hard to get the indentation out of the fabric of the
vote is done
paper
in full view of like tellers for different parties and things.
Yeah.
You're going to attract a bit of attention if it looks like you're rubbing things out.
There you go. They voted for my candidate, who's also my son. It's just yeah. All right. But yeah, it's yeah. So yeah, there's been a bit of a weird one with this plane crash, and just to go off to a completely different topic. This plane crash in Kazakhstan. It's an Azerbaijani plane, and it looks like it might have been shot down by the Russians. So this could all be
just for a change.
There you go. Here's some more. Yeah, because they've never shot down a plane before, have they? But yeah, that's all a bit of a worry. Are you following the probe that's currently making what's it called?
Not really.
Parker, as in the butler from Thunderbirds. It's made its closest ever approach to the sun. Apparently, if we are a meter away from the sun, 93 million miles, this is the equivalent of being four centimeters away. That's how close it is. It's really hot. Anyway, it's been the front news. It's been the main news on the BBC website now for a couple of days, which is really hilarious. It's like they obviously don't have anything else to write about. But yeah,
maybe they do like what I do. So on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, I don't say anything mean about anyone, so I just basically don't say anything. And maybe they just do.
Is that your rule?
Thing. Goodwill. Well, it's sort of a bit of a rule of mine. Goodwill to all, including those people. So I just basically disengage altogether from any political commentary.
Okay, fair enough. But you're back now.
Loophole, yes.
The day after Boxing Day, start giving me kicking.
The video on my Boxing Day video was technically having a pop at the Daily Express, but then to be fair, I recorded it on Christmas Eve, so it's fine. That's my loophole. So I didn't actually say on Boxing Day.
Oh yeah, and
published it then.
do you know who else has been having a pop at their own? Is Lawrence Fox on Twitter. He's been having a go at anyone who's not Islamophobic.
Yeah.
And he had a go at the Refuck party because the chairman or someone isn't white.
Zia Yusuf, yeah, I saw that.
Oh my God, this actually happened.
He specifically referred to them as your chair is part of the death cult.
The death cult. So he called
that's what he
Islam
calls
the death cult.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. How is he allowed to do that? Like, I'm
because-
sure if I
don't
did
know.
that, I'll get arrested for hate crime.
Well, exactly. Is like having the worst midlife crisis ever. This, Tory donors donating £5 million to the Reclaim Party, which is like utterly mental. He's not even a billionaire. And I just hope Lawrence Fox uses the money to get some much needed therapy.
He won't, though, will he? He'll use it to build himself a golden throne of turds or something.
Yeah, he's going to spend it all crack cocaine money.
Yeah. Well, allegedly. Yeah, and Stephanie
more
saying
pride flags to burn.
Oh God, yeah. You have to buy the flags to burn them, and then they won't burn because they meet EU standards still,
Yes.
and they always will because the British standard thing's been dropped, hasn't it? We're not doing that anymore.
Although this is mad. It's like, why would you adopt lower standards, which is not only bad for our own consumers, but means that you have a harder time selling it to any bugger else?
Yeah. Did you watch Doctor Who on Christmas Day? You're not a big telly fan.
These days.
They did. I think it was written by Stephen Moffat, this one, and it was a big go at the government of Boris Johnson for making us all stay at home and not visit our dying parents while they were partying in Number 10, which was referenced very, not even like obliquely referenced. It was just totally like they were all partying while we couldn't, be with our loved ones while they were dying. And I was like, oh, cool, this is cool. This is really good. So that upset the Gams. They weren't very happy about that film, gotta say. And then
again, I've completely disengaged from social media for like 2 whole days. So
okay,
I don't know what they were about.
They'll always find something to complain about.
I suppose they will, yeah.
Christmas is woke. Christmas is so. Imagine giving presents to other people. Goodwill to all men. Yeah. Come on.
Well, I mean, if you get a Christmas present from a Brexiteer, it'll of course be an empty box. It'll be full of sovereignty.
I got you some sovereignty.
It's the most precious resource in the universe, sovereignty.
and yet you now have people writing for the Brexit press saying things like we should join America and become the 51st state, become a vassal of America.
None of it ever made sense. It never made sense. It continues to never make sense.
The same people who banged on about sovereignty for years, like this was this ephemeral thing that they needed to grab hold of and hold in their hands, and now they've got it, Phil. They've got the sovereignty, and that has stopped all the people flooding into our country, Phil. It's stopped it all. It's made our economy go great guns, and all the things that they promised us have totally happened, and they weren't just a bunch of liars blowing smoke up our asses at all. Indeed. I was going to go back to talking about Trump for a moment, though. I don't want to talk about Trump, but I was just thinking, all this, and then last week we had the whole thing with the government going to be shutting down, and it was last minute reprieve, and they managed to take out $190 million dollars that was supposed to be earmarked for children's cancer research. And like, Elon Musk flexing his muscles. And then what's been happening in the last sort of 24 hours with Laura Loomer and all that lot. Trump's not even president yet. Oh my God. Like, it is going to be an absolute carnival. Yes. What are your predictions? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't predict anything. Well, the only thing I will predict is I was wondering if, because Donald Trump had a bit of a habit in his first presidency of sacking people in his government quite freely.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, is Musk going to be smart enough to, because here's the thing, like, you've got all this stuff now with President Musk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's going to rankle on Trump. We know it's going to rankle because he had to come out and say, oh, he can't be president because his birth certificate. If you're having to hide behind that as the only reason he can't be president,
he's not. It's like he's not the president because he wasn't born in the United States. He's not the president because I am.
Yeah. So that will definitely. So my prediction is, I mean, that will definitely hurt Trump if people keep poking at that, and I would absolutely keep poking at that. That because every time he does something that Musk approves of, it's like, so Musk told you to do that, or he tricked you into doing it. I think people should do that, and that'll get on him. And then, what would you do if you're Trump, you're this big narcissist? What would you do to prove that Musk is not the power behind the thrones? You will force Musk to basically debase himself in public, to show
Kiss the
to
ring.
go over the top,
Kiss the ring.
yeah,
Kiss the ring
in public, and Musk won't like that. So you know, I'd be very surprised if Musk is still bosom buddies with Trump at the end of 2025, but I don't dare make any predictions.
Yeah.
And part of me was wondering, is Musk just clever enough to kowtow to Trump?
Yeah.
And get what he wants. But this, like, Laura Loomer stuff is making me think, because I'm thinking to myself, I mean, he's done that. Has he done it, first of all, checking out with Trump that he's cool with it, or has he just done it? In which, if he's just done it, and I think, because it'd be a weird subject to bring up with Trump, you know, Don me own mate, I'm planning on throwing a load of your top supporters under the bus. How do you feel about that? I don't think he's done that. So I think he's acting like a bit of a loose cannon.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but that's what it seems to me.
Well, I mean,
in which case he's likely to come to blows.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Musk isn't. He doesn't come across as someone who has like any impulse control whatsoever. No. He's not. I mean, he's a very lucky man. I mean, you know, but when it comes to street smart, I don't think he's got that kind of intelligence. He's definitely got no emotional intelligence whatsoever. And yeah, he is. One of the things that I thought was effective against the Republicans and the MAGAs and all that lot, that I kind of wish they kept going to the end of the campaign just to see what happened, and obviously they didn't, so we'll never know now. But it was when they called them weird, because they can't recoil from that. They are weird. They are really weird people. Yeah. They're just. I mean. You wouldn't be mates with them, would you? Well, I wouldn't.
This is the thing, and they'd go overboard. Like Reform UK is a similar thing.
Yeah.
And they go overboard in trying to normalise their own behaviour because it's not normal.
Yeah.
So they put a lot of effort in that. So yeah, things like that. Because populists rely on the idea of being able to claim that they're speaking for the silent majority, that they're actually just ordinary people. And it's like, so pointing out that they're not at all. They hate it.
Yeah. True. It's if we keep doing that, because they don't mind it if we call them fascists. They don't care if we call them fash. Do you know what I mean? They just that's water off a duck's back to them. But if you go for them and say that they're weird,
got a duck for Christmas, man.
Oh, a duck. A duck.
A duck witch.
I can't see it. It keeps disappearing on the screen.
Oh yeah, it does. It's because the V cam.
Yeah.
I got a duck.
A duck witch. A witch duck.
Because my wife struggles to get me presents, and I like ducks. So give me a duck.
The arguments in the chat now over who was the best doctor. No one's going to win. No one's going to win.
Because you're all wrong. That's why. Not a single person said Pat Troughton.
So everyone's opinions can be safely dismissed.
I've worked it all out scientifically.
But he's had quite a few episodes that were deleted, didn't he, Troughton?
Well, they were lost, yeah.
Deleted. Well, no, they were sent out. So they made copies of all these Doctor Who episodes and sent them out. Now, the BBC ones were taped over the originals, but they had these copies.
It was a union thing, because there was a fear in the 60s that, like, it was totally batshit. There was this fear that once you had enough programs, you wouldn't need to, like, make new programs. You just keep showing the old ones. It's like, are you mental?
Yeah.
Like,
well, that was
do that. Just have a 10-year loop of programs.
Well, that was something slightly different. They did have a recording of them, and they were recorded over for money, because the tapes were like £200 each back then, so it was worth reusing it. But yeah, you're right. The first episode, they had to redo it because of the Kennedy assassination happened on the same night, and they did it live. They did the original shows live, and they had to do the whole show again. So there's like two versions of the first episode. It's like the one that they did first, and then they did the same one again the week after. But yeah, it's a bit maddening. But then what happened was, because what Phil was talking about them, being told to destroy these copies. So they had the original that they were going to keep hold of, but that got copied over. But yeah, so all these copies went out around the world, to Nigeria, to Canada, to Thailand, for them to show on their public broadcast network, whatever. And then the rule was they were allowed to show it once, and then they had to destroy the film stock. It was printed on film, and they had to destroy the film stock. And like loads of places in Africa were like, why would they just destroy a film? That's just nuts. So they just like kept it in a basement somewhere. And it's why a few years ago they found a little treasure trove of missing Doctor Who episodes. They found about 17 of them in a town called Jos in Nigeria. And it's because they hadn't followed the instructions of destroying these. You know, it's like Mission Impossible. Yeah, this TV show will self-destruct after half an hour. But yeah, anyway, so people are arguing over who's the best Doctor. And Super Tiny's right, I think, so far, who said James Bond is the best Doctor. James Bond, obviously a Time Lord who regenerates as a different actor and never ages and, never dies. Oh, hang on. Russell Cannon, sorry, mate. Russell says, when I was little, I was convinced the TARDIS was brown as we only had a black and white TV. I was gobsmacked when I found out it was blue. There you go, mate. You see, people didn't know.
So you were old enough to have watched Doctor Who in black and white, but not old enough to have seen a police box.
Yeah.
Even I grew up with a police box. We had a police box in our village when I was very young.
Oh, wow. I never
function as a police
saw
box, but they hadn't taken it down.
Yeah.
So we had a police station, which disappeared the minute the Tories came into power. No police station in that whole village anymore. This was back in, anyway.
Back in the day. When I were young, when I were a lad. God, we do like to get off the
saw police officers.
topic, don't we? When you saw Bobby on the beat.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, but crime's halved.
I think
Phil, crime has halved in the last 20 years. It's halved.
Fair, I will give them this. You're not going to find a fraudster by pounding the beat, I guess. But at the same time, you still need a presence.
Well, the thing is, I remember I was in London at the end of the Pulp gig last year, and I was walking on the street, and there was loads of coppers on the street, and it didn't make me feel safe. I mean, maybe before Sarah Everard was murdered, maybe before what they did at the vigil.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you need the community to feel the police are on your side. I mean, I suppose I was a kid when I was growing up because it was a mining village, and mining communities didn't really think the police were on their side in the 80s
because they weren't.
But anyway, it is what it is.
Back onto Musk for a moment. Ernie Burns in the chat is saying, ego Musk is suffering from Dunning-Kruger, reinforced by millions of people who think he's clever, but Mush's only talent is arrogance. Yeah?
Well, no, I mean, so yes, he started off with a load of money. He's not a self-made man, but he's made sensible investments. So he's obviously got some skills. He's made he didn't inherit the largest fortune in the world. Yeah. So he's made good investment decisions, but like you say, he's got no emotional intelligence because he's never needed it. He just gets his own way. He's not good at running a business because when he's done more than just invest, when he's actually taken a leading role in any of his businesses, they've tended to not go very well.
Wasn't he kicked out of PayPal? He wanted to call PayPal X, and they kicked him out, didn't they?
I mean, the stuff he does, like the business he runs, there's some really good stuff in there. I mean, Tesla, in theory, could be a good brand. I don't know what's going on with the Cybertruck, for Christ's sake.
I saw one of them in real life in Canada.
Wild.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In Canada, they're bloody huge. The reason why the meatheads love them, it's because it appeals to the vroom vroom, I've got the noisiest car in the village, everyone look at me, I'm a very special boy mentality of certain petrol heads, but it's an electric car, so it goes it goes like shit off a shovel. Like the acceleration on those things is just insane. And the type of person it appeals to. But this is it, like, in a way I'm kind of happy that they've made a car that appeals to petrol heads, because it means that some of them will buy it. But another way, it's just a death trap, Phil. It is an absolute death trap.
Well, I've seen all sorts of, like, there's just no attention to detail. I saw one video, and it was looking at the self-closing boots.
Yeah.
It was
trunk.
They call it a trunk.
Trunk, yeah,
And it
they're
was
stupid.
like, and they were doing things
trunk
where
and the
they were like
hood.
putting carrots and stuff in it. Every single car came down, felt the resistance, went back up again. Did it? Cybertruck, bosh. So your fingers get caught in that when the boot or the trunk is lowering. That's it. You're learning to write with your feet.
Yeah. Benjamin's putting out something that I was going to mention on the show. Musk told people to stop donating to Wikipedia this week. Did you hear about this?
No.
Right, so Wikipedia put out their figures because they're, it's an open source thing, and that they put out what they spend, how much money they got in and what they spent it on. And one of the things that they said they spent it on was like diversity. And so Musk and others went, oh, it's DEI, it's diversity, inclusion, and all this, and we don't want that. They spent a huge chunk. They spent a third of what you give them on DEI hires. And actually, the thing with Wikipedia is it's written for every country in the world. So you need people from every background in the world contributing to make the data better. But then that mutated in this whole thing of like, oh, they don't let conservatives edit stuff on Wikipedia. It's not about it. They're not letting conservatives change stuff. Of course, conservatives can change stuff on Wikipedia, but it has to be true. And the thing is with conservatives all over the world, they have a very, very tenuous grasp on reality. And what they think is true and real, because they read it in a fucking newspaper, isn't necessarily actually what happened in any way, shape or form. So yeah, you get these right-wing dickheads who go on there and try and change the page for the moon landings or, the geometric data of the planet. That's...
Hang on, they've missed out that the moon's made of cheese here.
Oh, I'll have to put that in. The moon is made of 99% cheese. They made a little joke about that in what's it called? Wallace and Gromit, which was brilliant, by the way. If you haven't seen it yet, get yourself onto BBC iPlayer, watch the new Wallace and Gromit. It's bloody wonderful. Is the moon made of cheese? It goes into some secret files, and instead of it being like, tick all the bicycles, it's choose the squares that are made of cheese, and one of them's the moon, and he's got to decide whether the moon's made of cheese. Anyway, good little callback there. Loved it. W. James, I saw a Cybertruck in LA, and it was grotesque. Yeah, it's a horrible looking machine, and it's a death trap. An absolute death trap. I don't think it's ever going to be legal in Europe. Certainly not on UK roads. Just no. But if you're into your stupid muscle cars and you want your car to look like something from a movie, a cheap and nasty 80s sci-fi movie, maybe.
Mad Max. Well, it doesn't look very Mad Max. It looks more like the APC in Aliens. It looks a bit more like that. It's just very functional. But it's quite dysfunctional, apparently, because they keep having to recall it because things keep going horribly, horribly wrong. I remember. Do you remember when they brought out the new Mini? And they had to recall those to begin with because there was a chance that when you filled it up, the petrol tank might explode.
Cool.
A bit of a drawback.
Come on, it makes driving more entertaining, though, doesn't it? If you don't know. It
does.
Yeah. David says Darwinism for the win. Yeah, but David, the thing with Cybertrucks, they are dangerous to the people inside them, but they are way, way more dangerous for the squishy little humans outside them. If you get hit by one of them,
you're finished. This is why I can't get an SUV, because this is the problem. The physics of it is, if a normal car hits you, it hits you below your centre of mass, you go onto the bonnet, right, which can still be very messy. But if an SUV hits you above the centre of mass, you go under the wheels.
Yeah.
So that is the huge danger of them. Plus, of course, you have less vision because there's a shallower gradient to the floor. So there's a whole area of the floor immediately in front of your car you cannot see with a higher bonnet.
Yeah.
Or hood.
Hood. But yeah, make your own Cybertruck.
I'm bilingual, you see. I speak American and British.
Oh, wow, you speak 2 languages.
I can actually speak 3 because I can speak Yorkshire as well, but a lot of the words
speak
are
Yorkshire.
quite common, to be fair.
There's a few little funny digs at Yorkshire in Wallace and Gromit as well. Oh shit!
No,
the internet just went off. Sorry, the internet went off. Reconnection successful. Sorry about that, everyone. And Super Tiny's just saying Musk is a dweeb. That's a word I've not heard for a long time, but yes, he is. Phil needs to watch not just bikes, apparently, says Tim. And Yeah, and Svak says, can't see, e.g. small kids playing while sitting down in front of a car. Yeah, those big, massive SUVs that are like dead high up off the ground, like monster trucks. They're so dangerous. There was a thing a few years ago, it's about 20 years back now, where they banned what they call bull bars off the front of vehicles in the UK because dickheads, the same petrol heads who were like, oh, vroom, vroom, look at me. They used to put these bars on, which were developed in Australia for trucks out in the pickups and utes, as they call them, out in the outback, where at dusk every day, I don't know why, but certain kangaroos will stand at the side of the road at dusk every day, and as you're driving on the road, they will jump out in front of your car. Literally, I don't know if they're playing chicken or what they're doing, but basically that happens quite a lot. So they installed these what they call bull bars, so that if you hit a full-grown red kangaroo, which are quite big, it wouldn't fly into the windscreen and kill you. But yeah, having them in the UK is just like, why do you need that? And now that's kind of translated into the SUV market and the clean tray wankers who go around in their pickup, those massive pickup trucks that you see sometimes on the streets, on the roads, and they have a clean tray at the back because they're not used for carrying stuff from one scrapyard to another. No. They're just used to show off, and it's just, I don't know, Phil. It's just a bit sad, isn't it? You think people would grow up?
So, I've pretty much stopped watching most sports now, but I used to watch a lot of Formula One, and when they changed to the new sort of engines, all the drivers complained it was too quiet, so they had to add extra noise. Because they're naturally quieter because they're electric, basically. So they are artificially noisy now, Formula One cars, because the drivers, and I suppose quite a few of the fans went, "Oh, we missed the noise."
Yeah. That's. I mean, when you're actually at the Formula One, have you been to an actual race?
I've been to a couple.
Yeah, because it just sounds like hornets out in the distance. It's like that buzzing noise that you get when you're closer to the car. Obviously, it's a bit deeper and it's still like a broom broom noise. But when you're up on one of the hills, that's surround the track at Malaysia or somewhere, it just like buzzing kind of high pitched noise. And you have no clue what's happening because unless you're down at the pit lane.
I find that about a lot of sports, though. I have been to some sports, but I've generally never done it regularly because I always find it's better to watch it on the telly. You get the shots you need on the telly. Yeah. So I don't. Obviously, a lot of people like going to sports live. I've never been to the closest would be snooker. You can at least see everything, but then I would find myself missing like John Virgo. So.
Well, even at the footy, if you're behind the goal, great if they score into your goal or whatever. But if you see the net move at the other side of the pitch, you're like, yeah, oh. Yeah, you haven't got a clue. So yeah, it's true. But yeah, when I've been to the Formula One, you've got to position yourself somewhere near a TV screen. So you're essentially in a field watching a TV screen, and now and again, like a car will go past. You can't see the other cars. You can't see the rest of the track. You can see the whole track from anywhere. Exactly. Even if you're in the stands and you're above the pit lane, what do you see? But yeah. Anyway, One Aggie Pagan saying that he loves the F1 purely because of the physics. Phil, is that why you liked it?
I was a big fan of that. Yeah, I used to teach when I taught like longitudinal waves with kids because you get the thing where you go into a hairpin. And you could be miles behind the car, but then you go right up to them, but then they come out of it early, so they go away again. It's like longitudinal waves.
Yeah,
sorts of things you can teach.
So the president of Mexico at the moment, Claudia Sheinbaum is her name. She's a physics PhD,
All right. Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, and she's gonna. I think she's going to be really good against Trump. I think it's going to be quite interesting because you've got the fact that he's a dickhead man who doesn't know.
Well, we'll have to hope because of all the countries like he said he wants to acquire, I can believe he would actually effectively invade both Panama and Mexico, because the Mexican thing is about they're using the excuse of drug traffickers. So I can believe he'd carry out a targeted strike on, just like Israel did against Lebanon and Iran. Oh, but we've got excuses. But yeah, but you've still attacked another country.
Yeah.
And Panama, like he's been really going for it on the Panama Canal thing. I can see him trying to, like, I don't know whether he just thinks he's going to blockade Chinese ships or something, but I can see him trying to, like, send a fleet down there to control it.
Who's really calling the shots here? Because, like, who's had a problem with the Panama Canal? Like, no one's had a problem with the Panama Canal except Vladimir Putin, because since the invasion of Ukraine, they've not allowed Russian vessels to go through the Panama Canal, and that's a big problem for them.
Maybe. Because I would have thought
really
that's
calling the
possible.
shots?
Yeah, that's possible.
And Greenland, there's a NATO listening station that the Russians find problematic. Yeah. Read between the lines of, like, what Trump's saying, and he's being fed this by Putin, who gets on the phone and goes, you know, 38,000 fucking Yanks died digging this ditch in Panama, and you get nothing for it. And he's like, what? 38,000 people, Americans? They didn't, Phil. Thousands of West Indians died,
but
not Americans.
I would have just naturally thought it's because that's how China gets goods to the east coast of America, which is where almost everyone lives. In America, because that would have to go through the Panama Canal. Yeah,
but yes, Stephanie's saying Mexico is apparently building a canal to replace the Panama Canal. I don't know if Mexico's doing it, but Guatemala, they are actually digging it. The Chinese are digging it through. Nicaragua. That's part of their Belt and... No, it's not. It's Belt and Travel Scheme. What was it called? Belt and Road Scheme. It was part of their little scheme. A little addendum to it. I know that's to do with getting stuff to Europe and into Africa. We've got John F. Johnson. Oh, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. It's a fair super chat. Thank you very much, John. The left want to ration meat and other produce and turn us into mindless shells. Okay. The ration meat, what, like Google meat? Okay. Trump will save us. Trump is the son of God. Son spelled as in the sun in the solar system. Sadiq Khan is a state. Who's Sadiq Khan? Who's Sadiq? Wasn't he the baddie in one of the Star Trek movies? Am I just making that up? Anyway, he's a Satanist, apparently. Well, he was stuck on that planet for a very, very long time, mate. And it was, enough time to build up a bit of resentment against all of humanity, I guess. So there you go. Maybe he is. Oh, sorry. He meant Sadiq. Oh, sorry. I thought he meant a Bond villain or a Star Wars villain or something. Anyway, thank you very much, John, for that. enlightening super chat. If you want to give us money to talk nonsense, you can. Just make sure that you don't spell things right. Christopher says Musk has complaints about the Panama Canal. His drone ships were delayed going between California and Florida.
Well, I'll tell you what, if the Americans send some ships to blockade the ship, and it'll get delayed a lot more than that.
Well, exactly. But, like, I mean, if they do put a blockade on the Panama Canal, that is going to mess trade up in America something rotten.
Of course it is.
Because they've got, there's shit trains that they've got over there. Did you ever have top Trump trains when you were a kid?
No, I had planes, but not trains.
I had trains, right? And you wanted the Japanese bullet train because that could beat everyone else's, right? For capacity, speed, everything. It just trumped everything else. You didn't want the American trains. Oh my God. They go at about 24 miles an hour, Phil. Like full speed. So, like, you can imagine trying to move 20,000 containers, which you can fit on one ship these days, across America. And then you've got places like Wyoming that have no railway anymore. Yeah, good luck with that.
People.
You've got no people. Yeah, but no railway goes through it even. So, yeah, Garrett T, thank you very much for the more sensible super chat, my friend. When we invaded Iraq, the MOD chartered 2 boats to transport our vehicles. The 2 were Russian and Ukrainian. I was on the Ukrainian boat. Wow, Gareth, that's pretty interesting. We need to talk. I'm going to have a chat with Gareth about prisons in the UK because Gareth used to work in the prison. So yes, we will definitely be doing that. So thanks very much to Gareth T. And we've just gone over time a little bit. But before we do, Michael wants to know if anyone wants to buy a monorail. And Fax says, Phil, stop being logic in Trump's words and actions because it's not about logic. It's never about logic.
Well, he adopts a certain type of logic with his thinking. It may not make sense and it may be full of holes.
Yeah.
But he thinks like this thing with tariffs. I mean, the way it works in his head, is we want Americans to buy more American stuff, so we'll make foreign stuff more expensive, and then they'll buy. And it's like, yeah, but if they're not buying American stuff now, it's because the American stuff's more expensive for what you're getting. So you're actually making people pay more.
Yeah.
And you're creating scarcity, which will allow them to drive up the prices even more. You know, like none of it makes. But in his mind, there has to be a logic to all of this. Otherwise, he would just like Donald Trump only actually needs to do two things in the next 4 years. He has to work out a way to stop the courts taking his money, and he's got to work out a way to stop the courts sending him to prison. That's his two jobs. So all of this talk about Greenland again. And the Panama Canal in Canada, and
that was his Christmas Day message.
Mexico. Yeah,
that was the equivalent of the King's. Oh God, Phil, did you hear that the King's message was woke? Did you hear this?
Oh yeah.
So there was some right-wing conservative commentators going off on one because they thought that the King's message of inclusion was woke. Yeah.
Well, that's what woke is. Everything that they don't like. That's what they think woke means. If we don't like it, and if anyone has the nerve, I mean, can you imagine someone having the nerve to talk about peace and goodwill at Christmas? I mean, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
So I mean, they just show everyone who they are, really.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just off. And this is the thing. I mean, you said about like reading stuff in a newspaper and people believing it because it's read in a newspaper, and maybe that's the problem. Like, there's plenty of disinformation on the left as well. But I suppose someone who's got a bit of critical thinking can always go, because if someone on the left tries to put forward some bollocks, then where are they going to put it through? It can only be on social media or some minor little rag. Yeah. So it's easy to think, well, this may not be the most reliable source. Whereas the right get their bollocks from media that's been around for like 100, 200 years. And things like that. So it's got a much stronger veneer of respectability. Yeah. So maybe that's part of the problem. They're naturally less cautious about reading nonsense because it's packaged so professionally.
Yeah, they're so used to it. All right, Phil. Well, we'll call it there. I think. Are you around tonight, or are you off gallivanting?
No, I am. I'm not gallivanting today. So I'll be playing Diablo 4.
Oh, nice. Okay, fair enough. That's a good way of spending a Friday night. If you would like to join us, first of all, A. Thompson is doing a show at 7:30, which I'd like you all to watch if you want to get onto Aid's channel. And then we've got Maximilian on his channel at 8:30 tonight. And then if you would come back here, if you would, for the politics.
I hope you're
social.
Writing all this down.
Friday night.
There will be gone to the trouble of.
This will be in the test. This will be in the exam. 9:30 tonight. Straight after Max, we'll be doing the Friday Night Social, the Politics Social Friday Night Social. So please join us for that, and we should have a bloody good laugh doing it. So big thank you to Phil. Phil, I will see you in the future.
Yes.
And we're all
That's
interested,
the case, isn't it?
In the future.
That's the way, isn't it?
Because it is where we will spend the rest of our lives. Anyway, yeah, so I'll see you in 2025. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Is that right?
What are you planning to do for New Year?
I'm going to cook a roast dinner.
Oh, that sounds nice.
I am actually doing a stream on my own channel New Year's Eve.
Oh, fantastic. All right, well,
I'm doing it earlier. I'm not doing it when it turns New Year.
Okay.
You can do that.
All right. No, I'm going to be in Liverpool, so I don't know what I'm doing yet. We will decide nearer the time. I might roll in at 2 a.m, staggeringly drunk, and then just do a live stream, a drunk stream. That'll probably be a great idea, Phil. Yes, thank you for giving me that idea. That's all your fault if it goes terribly wrong. Which it probably will.
I can't imagine it going well.
We'll watch it back the next day and be like, oh, Jesus Christ, Graham. Anyway, so...
Plenty of people do embarrassing things when they come home drunk. Not many broadcast it to the world.
Yeah, broadcast it live stream it to the world. But yeah, hope to see you all at 9:30 tonight. Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks for all the chat. Thanks for the super chats in particular. And, as we always say on this channel, give us a like on the way out. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.